Sierra Online. If you're anything like me, just hearing those two words takes you back to sitting in front of the computer for hours, absorbed in classic puzzle games like King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry. Founded in 1979 by the husband and wife team of Ken and Roberta Williams, Sierra's innovative worlds and beautiful graphics quickly made them the premier name in PC gaming. And today, we're taking a look back at the golden age of Sierra Online. Welcome to Complete in Box, a series in which we take a look at old games by looking at the box and the manual and all the other cool stuff that they came with. Today we're in Seattle, Washington, home of Starbucks, rain, and a great community of vintage video game collectors. And everybody in Seattle knows that if it's PC games you're after, you've got to go find the Metal Jesus. His name is Jason, and he runs a YouTube channel called Metal Jesus Rocks. He's got a collection of thousands of vintage PC games, and he even used to work at Sierra Online back in the 90s. We're meeting up here at Seattle's famous video game store, Pink Gorilla. We're both bringing some games from our collections, and we are gonna reminisce about some Sierra history. So, Jason, what is it that makes Sierra so special?
Well, for many reasons. They just put out a ton of great games for several decades. I mean, they were the biggest publisher pretty much on the planet from the 80s and 90s. We were bigger than EA, which surprises even me. And it was because Sierra released so many games, so many genres within that adventure games, racing games, pinball games, fishing games, everything like that. It was quite amazing.
What is the appeal of collecting these ginormous boxes?
Well, I love it because it reminds me of vinyl records. I am a vinyl record kid, and that's my favorite way to experience and collect music. And I think it's very similar for video games as well.
For sure.
It's the best physical version that was ever made. And that's what I love about big box PC games, is that yes, there's the physical version in there, but it's also a great manual, a map, often there's feelies in there. It's a lot of stuff around the experience of the game. You'd have all this extra stuff that would just, fill it out. It was awesome.
Everybody's Super Nintendo boxes are the same, no matter what publisher it is. But with PC big boxes, it really depends on the publisher, and everybody kind of had their own unique, interesting take on it.
It was, and actually at the time, publishers were fighting for attention on the store shelves because there wasn't any standard at the time. And so that is one of the things about collecting big box, that big box, what does that mean? Well, it could be this big, this wide. I mean, it was crazy at the time. It was all about trying to get those eyeballs on shelves, and the big boxes help with that. Again, very similar to vinyl records. It was very symbiotic sort of relationship.
Right. So here's what I brought. We wanted to bring some games that really represented the golden age of Sierra.
Yeah.
And so I went back really early and I brought my earliest Sierra game, which is the Dark Crystal.
I am so jealous of this version. I've never seen it before.
This was before Sierra games, and really even computer games in general, came in boxes at all. Mm-hmm. At first they came in, like small baggies with maybe a photocopied piece of cardboard or paper around the floppy disk. And that was just how computer games were sold. By the time we got to Dark Crystal, still came in a baggie, but it was a really high production baggie. It was like, instead of just a piece of photocopied paper, now we had moved to this really beautiful folio with the movie artwork on the front, and really gorgeous. It's like a storybook inside. There's a big free poster in there, a giant Dark Crystal poster. Then the floppy disks were kind of just like bagged up with that. Dark Crystal was made by Roberta Williams, who would eventually do King's Quest, but Dark Crystal was more of it was a text adventure with graphics. It was, you were playing a text adventure, and then it had graphical stills. With King's Quest, they wanted to go, something that would really kind of like change the formula in a big way. And so with King's Quest, that's where you actually had, it looked like a cartoon. The character was actually being controlled by the player walking around this animated area. What's really funny about King's Quest is that the first version, this version, was actually published by IBM.
Yeah, and I noticed it's in a plastic box there, almost like business software.
Right. I mean, that's even more expensive than a cardboard box.
Right.
Well, IBM was launching its PC Junior computer, and it wanted software that would really wow people. And so they spent like $850,000. Like, they paid Sierra all that money to create this game, paid for it all, and published this first version. And so a lot of people don't know that the first King's Quest was published originally by IBM.
Yeah, it's really weird for me to see that with the IBM logo everywhere, including on the discs. That's crazy.
Yeah. So what you have here now is now with Space Quest 3, you know, we're really getting into like the golden age of Sierra.
Yeah, and I like talking about specifically like Space Quest because people forget that Sierra wasn't just about King's Quest and some of the really bigger series. It's a silly kind of comedy parody sort of adventure game. So they were always really great about kind of making fun of what was hip and cool at the time. And this is a really cool one here because, as you reminded me, it has a really cool mask in there. It's like a pig mask in there.
Yes, yeah, one of the enemies of the game.
Yeah, and the reason why I forgot about that is because at the time, we were putting all sorts of stuff in games. It's like every game at this time would have like little feelies in it, little extra stuff. Laura Bow would come with, like a notepad and pencil. Leisure Suit Larry would come with like a napkin, things like that. So it was very common to kind of pad them with a little bit extra experiences in there.
Yeah, I think that really kind of gets to the collectability and the fun of big box PC games today.
Absolutely.
Just because, I mean, again, the stuff they could come with was so imaginative and interesting. Space Quest 3, it's not yet a full point-and-click adventure game. You can't run the whole thing with the mouse. But Space Quest 3 does actually introduce mouse movement. So instead of having to move the character with a keyboard, you can just click and they'll go there. You still have, once they get there, you still have to type what you want to do. But it was sort of a waypoint on the evolution of the adventure game.
Yeah, so mouse support was really tough to do at this time because mouse drivers in MS-DOS are actually fairly large. And so when you're dealing with very limited conventional memory back in the day, and I can nerd out about all this stuff because this is what I did there, but basically you would really struggle if you had a CD-ROM driver, a sound card driver, and a mouse driver. It was only until really Windows 95 and Windows 98 that we were able to bring true mouse support to pretty much every adventure game.
Right.
We were very happy when that happened. And then here we have Betrayal at Krondor, which is another game that I feel is a little bit forgotten, over time. It's like people don't quite remember this series here, but it's a great game. And it's by one of my favorite developers, which is Dynamics. I like Dynamics because they were so talented as far as developers go. They did a lot of simulations, so they did racing games, they did flight games, they did puzzle games, stuff like that. They also made killer RPGs. They were able to do pretty much, in my mind, anything that they wanted to do. And this is a really cool version here because it's the floppy version. And I like that because it reminds me of a time, a transition within computers where you're going from floppy disks to CD-ROMs. And so the floppy disk version actually is a little bit hard to get now because most people did get the CD-ROM version at the time.
Well, what I noticed about Betrayal at Krondor here is that the box is actually a lot larger. This is where we're really getting into the excesses of the big box PC days, where it's like twice the size of the Space Quest one.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of ridiculous. But, I mean, at the time, you might have a bunch of floppies in there that you had to ship off to the customer, or sometimes it would come with both. So it would be 3.5, 5 1/4, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jason for sharing those incredible games and really cool stories with us. Check out his YouTube channel, Metal Jesus Rocks, for more game collecting tips, game history, and of course, great stories from the Sierra days. Vintage PC games are amazing collector's items, and now you have seen some of the best complete in box.